As Sensei received his ordination, his first ordination as Tokudo in March of 2005, and then he received his Kyoshi in March of 2000. Oh, okay, let me back up. He received his Tokudo in 2003 and his Kyoshi in 2005. Is there a period, a reason why there's a long period between Kyoshi and Tokudo to Kyoshi?
Requirement to go to the training. Yeah, then I went to Tokyo. Then after that, I graduated from Ryukoku University. Then it became possible to go to the So yeah, 2 years.
I went to Chibutsu, and that's kind of the flunky school. It's not the flunky. It's just it's for kind of people who have to become ministers, and they're not more academic, so they go to Chuoboku Gakuin, and so they study there instead of Ryukoku University. Excuse me. That's the long. So I did my I did Tokudo, and then like 3 months later I did my Kyoshi. So yeah. They want to get us out and working, but yeah. So since they went to the Kyoto for his training. Later on, and in 2004, he did some graduate work at the School of Business at Stanford in the executive program for nonprofit leaders. And then in April through March 2005, April 1st to 2005, he received his BA at the Ryukoku University and received his MA in Buddhist Studies in April 2005 through 2007. He began his orientation as a minister at the Hompa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii headquarters in 2007 to 2008, and then he became the associate minister at Hompa Hongwanji Hilo Betsuin from March 1st, 2008 to November 30th, 2009. He then was transferred to Kapa Hongwanji Mission from December 1st, 2009 through August 2014. Sensei's been transferred a lot.
Yeah.
I would say transferred. He's moved a lot. And so then he became the resident minister of the Huye, how do you say it? The Hongwanji Mission in 2014 through 2018. And then he became the executive assistant to the bishop, Hompa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii, between July 2018 and June 2021. So Sensei had the position of executive to the bishop as Reverend Takata was, but he was maybe a couple of years before you became executive.
Yes, yeah. But he was also the executive assistant. And at that time, another minister took over his parade. After that, I was in that position.
Then he became the acting Rinban at Hompa Hongwanji Hilo Betsuin in March of 2021 and through June 2021, and he became the Rinban to be Rinban. His family is you met his family Noriko and his son Hironori. He's 4 years old. And Sensei's hobbies include reading, photography, and traveling. He's visited 20 countries in Asia, Europe, and North America. 21 counting Los Angeles. It's a foreign country. Anyway, thank you, Sensei, for making the trip to Los Angeles.
それでは日本語の方でご講師の紹介をさせていただきます。 私も、I was a student of Butsu too. Not Ryukoku University. 高橋先生、ありがとうございます。本日はハワイからお越しいただきまして、誠にありがとうございます。高橋先生、山口県の出身でございまして、龍谷大学文学部、そして大学院で仏教学を学ばれました。2008年にハワイへ渡られ、ヒロベツイン、カパー本願寺、リフエ本願寺などでご奉職され、その後はハワイ本パ本願寺教団本部の事務局長も務められました。現在はヒロベツインのご輪番として、ほのひな、ほのむ、パイコーの各寺院も兼務されながらご活躍をされています。また、2024年ですね、2024年にはスタンフォード大学経営大学院の非営利団体リーダー向けエグゼクティブプログラムも終了されるなど、人員運営やリーダーシップについても研鑽を積んでおられます。今日はその時に学ばれた内容をですね、皆さんにシェアしていただけるということで、本当に私ども楽しみにしております。どうぞよろしくお願いいたします。
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kazunori Takahashi. Thank you, Rinban Briones Himeji Sensei, for your kind introduction. I am the Rinban, was the Chief Minister of Honpa Hongwanji, Hilo Betsuin, on the island of Hawaii. And once again, thank you very much for your invitation and for giving me this opportunity today. And I also thank all of you to gather together here for this session. It's a great joy for me to share this time with all of you. And now I would like to share a presentation entitled Reflecting on the Mission of the Jodo Shinshu Temple Lessons from the Stanford Executive Program for Nonprofit Leaders. And here is today's outline. I will cover these topics, and I hope we'll also have some time for discussion at the end. And please allow me to introduce myself briefly. By the way, this is the photo of Hilo, the big island. I just included. I was born and raised at the Jodo Shinshu Temple in Nagato City, Yamaguchi Prefecture, Japan. After graduating from high school, I studied at Ryukoku University in Kyoto. And during my student years, I became interested in learning the teachings of Shinran Shonin in English. Then I began taking classes offered for those aspiring to become overseas ministers. And that connection led me to resolve to become a Haikyoshi minister. And it has been about 19 years since I became a minister of Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. I'm currently serving as Rinban to Honpa Hongwanji Hirobetsuin and 3 neighboring temples, Honohina Hongwanji, Honomu Hongwanji, and Papaiko Hongwanji missions. And 2 years ago, in 2024, I participated in the executive program for non-profit leaders at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, and I would like to share this experience with you in this seminar. Then first, I would like to speak about why I applied to this program. And I had two main purposes. The first one was to study management and leadership systematically to better fulfill my role and responsibilities as a minister and as Rinban. I was assigned to the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii in 2007 and have been engaged in propagation in Hawaii ever since. Then when I first came to Hawaii in 2007, actually, my thought was simply, I wish to share the Shinran Shonin's Nembutsu teaching with as many people as possible. However, as I gained experience, my responsibilities grew to include not only religious services and Dharma messages, but also the administration of temples and organizations. Today, I serve at Hilo, Betsuin, Rinban, and I'm also responsible for several other temples. Then at Hilo, Betsuin, moreover, I'm involved not only in the temple itself, but also in preschool, Japanese language school, and various affiliated organizations. From small daily judgments to major decisions that affect the organization's future. And there are many occasions when I need to consider direction. Until then, I had learned about management and leadership as the need arose. So I read books, took online seminars, and received advice or guidance from many people, but I came to wish to study these subjects systematically. ありがとうございます。And to deepen my understanding of organizational management from both theory and practice. So I applied to this program. And my second purpose was to search from a new perspective for clues to the challenge that so many temples face, declining membership. So are there same issues in the temples in the United States? Or in some temples, some organizations have this challenge, the declining membership. Then, fortunately, Hilo Betsuin is very active, thanks to the support of many officers, members, staff, and volunteers. Many people attend our weekly services, and a variety of programs open to the community are carried out, including Bon dance, cultural activities, and youth activities. At the same time, however, over the long term, our membership has been declining. And this is not a problem of Hilo Betsuin alone. It is one shared by many temples in Hawaii. Then our members are aging, and in many cases, their families live off island, or there is no one to carry on the family's connection with the temple. New members do join, and some inherit a membership. But the reality is that the decline continues at a pace faster than those gains. This challenge is not simply a matter of declining numbers. It affects the financial foundation of temple life, our ability to sustain the many activities of the temple, and above all, how the Buddha-Dharma will be shared with future generations. It is a challenge that concerns the very future of the temple. Of course, and I am told that such challenges are by no means limited to religious organizations. In our communities, many non-profit organizations face similar difficulties. At the same time, many organizations have overcome such difficulties and continue to grow. I therefore hoped that by learning together with leaders of various non-profit organizations and encountering diverse ways of thinking and concrete example of practice, then I wanted to discover new perspectives and possibilities that could also benefit our temples. Then I am truly grateful for the interest you have shown in my participation in this program. Then today, I would like to share with you the lessons that have remained with me from this program and how it became an occasion for me to reflect anew on the mission of a Jodo Shinshu temple. However, I should say that although I completed this program, I'm not a specialist in management or organization theory. So I attended this program as a Kaikyoshi minister, carrying many questions and searching for answers. So what I offer today, therefore, is not instruction or guidance, but rather an invitation. an invitation to consider together for what purpose do our temples exist and what can we offer to the world, society, or community today. And the next I want to talk about what I learned at Stanford. Let me begin with a brief overview. The executive program for nonprofit leaders is a 6-day residential program held at the Stanford Graduate School of Business, designed for leaders of nonprofit organizations. In my cohort, the 61 participants gathered from 16 countries, and they hold this program once a year. Then their work was diverse, such as organizations supporting people experiencing homelessness, or organization protecting the rights of women and children, organizations operating crisis shelters, organizations working to improve public health, organizations providing education to young people, and many more. And I was the only Buddhist minister in the room. The classes covered a wide range of themes. So I attended, these classes. For example, strategic leadership, decision making for social impact, crisis management, storytelling, and more. All of them were extremely valuable, but for today's session, considering the time, I'd like to focus on these 3 lessons that left the deepest impression on me. And I wanna talk about these 3 lessons. Begin with the change you wish to see, the power of subtraction, the value of the membership system. The first lesson begins with the change you wish to see. The first lesson concerns how we envision the future. I was told that when we think about the future of our organization, we tend to start from the present situation or present issue. We ask, what is the problem now? So how do we solve it? For example, earlier I mentioned the issue of membership declining. Then we may think how we stop it. Or we may think, our membership is aging. How do we deal with it? Actually, this is a natural way of thinking. But what I learned at Stanford was to reverse that order. Let me talk about it a little bit more. The starting point is not a problem. The starting point should be the vision. So what change do we wish to bring about in the world? What change do we wish to see in people's lives? And once we can answer those questions clearly and express them in words that anyone can understand, we can ask what our organization can do to bring about the change. We may think that how we should survive, how we should solve the problem, but Stanford, in the class, it was emphasized that we should think what change we want to see in the world. This may sound like a small shift, but it changes everything. When we start from the problem, our goal quietly becomes survival, the maintenance of the organization itself. Then, I said, of course, it is also important, but when we start from the vision, the goal becomes the purpose, and the organization becomes a vehicle for that purpose. Then, let me share one example I learned. Do you know this store? Do you go to Trader Joe's? I envy you. Trader Joe's are not in Hawaii. But there is no Trader Joe's in Hawaii. So many people from Hawaii, go to Trader Joe's. When they travel, they buy favorite items or they buy omiyage, and it's a common custom for people from Hawaii. And in the discussion of vision, one story about Trader Joe's stayed with me. It was, why are Trader Joe's parking lots so small? Is that correct? Actually, I have never visited so many, Trader Joe's, so I do not know if this is true, but maybe compared with other shopping centers, the parking lots of the Trader Joe's are smaller than the other stores. And do you know why? I learned on the class. It is because Trader Joe's position itself as a neighborhood grocery store, while offering high-quality products at reasonable prices. It values remaining a small, friendly store. For that reason, it doesn't make its stores larger than necessary. And because the stores are small, the parking lots are small as well. The company explains it this way: if we built bigger stores, we could build bigger parking lots, but then we would no longer be who we are. They want to be a neighborhood grocery store. In other words, even the size of the parking lot flows from the organization's mission. I thought this is a very interesting example. Then there is another interesting example. It is about Southwest Airlines. Do you sometimes use Southwest Airlines? Yeah, we yesterday, we arrived at the Los Angeles, airport. We saw the airplanes of Southwest Airlines. Yeah, so I'm sure that some of you may use these airlines. So, and in the class, their mission was also introduced. But their mission is not to provide the finest service. So its founder expressed it in just one phrase: democratize the skies. Democratize the skies. So, in other words, to make it possible for everyone to fly. So here is an interesting part. Whenever the company considered introducing a new service, like upgrading its in-flight meals or investing in new amenities, it asked one simple question: does this help democratize the skies? So, for example, fancy meals might make passengers happier, but they would also increase ticket prices. That would move the company away from its mission of being an airline everyone can fly. So Southwest chose low fares over luxury. So looking back, people have said that every decision was grounded in this purpose. And I was deeply impressed by this. A mission is something that should be reflected even in the small daily decisions of our organizations. Then after I came to think that this is an important way of thinking, not only for corporations, but also for our temples and non-profit organizations. So in connection with this, I also encountered a method called design thinking. Have you ever heard this word, design thinking? When we hear the word design, we may think of the appearance of products or buildings. But design here means designing services, systems and experiences that solve people's problems. Its starting point is empathy. Empathy. Before creating any new program or system, we should begin by listening to the voices of the people we seek to serve, and by understanding what they are truly struggling with, or what they truly need. So based on those voices, we then clarify a North Star, the purpose toward which we aim. So from there, we generate many ideas, and rather than aiming for a finished product from the start. So we first create a small prototype, we test in practice, listen to the voices of those who use it, and improve it again and again. So this process is generally described in the 5 stages: empathize, define, ideate, prototype, and test. It doesn't proceed in a straight line. However, its distinctive feature is that we return to earlier stages as needed and repeat the cycle, many times. For example, after I took, this session, I tried to use, this method. For example, in the temple, we may have like a study class or study session, like today, but I'm not sure how it works. I'm not sure if, it will be done successfully. So, like, some people may hear, oh, sensei, let's have a study class. Then, oh, okay, this person wants to have a study session. Then, we think about the ideas. Then, but I started some sessions in small way. Okay, so now we will have the study session every month. No, I didn't say that. Instead, let's have 3 sessions first. Then if it goes well, let's continue. Yeah, but in this way, we may use. I thought this idea is very useful. Then I came to think that this way of thinking can be applied well to our temples, whether it is a service, a youth program, new event, or the design of temple operations. We can begin by listening to the voices of our members in the community and share the vision of what we aim to be as a temple. So start small and nurture it little by little while listening to everyone's voices. Yeah, I believe this approach can be a great use in our temples as well. Actually, design thinking is a very deep subject, and today I just wanted to introduce its basics. But if you are interested, please explore it further. If you Google it, if you search it, you may find more information. But what impressed me was that the business schools emphasize empathy, the posture of listening to others, and seeking to understand them. Not results, not efficiency, but first understanding the other person. Yeah, I felt that this posture resonates somewhere, with a teaching that Buddhism has always treasured, to stand alongside people in their suffering or challenges. Okay. Now, already 40 minutes has passed. Is that okay to continue? Yes, thank you very much. Now, this is the second lesson that stayed with me, the power of subtraction. Then this lesson was completely new to me, and I thought it's very interesting. When organizations try to improve, we usually add something. Do you agree? Like a new program, new event, new committee. However, research introduced that this habit of adding can leave people with too little time weaken their focus and make the organization more complicated. In the end, it can even harm the organization's performance and health. The many organizations improve not by adding more, but by subtracting, by having the courage to let go of activities that no longer serve their mission. The professor gave us a simple example. Beautiful garden is created not only by planting, but also by removing weeds. Good writing is created not only by adding words, but also by cutting unnecessary ones. So with this idea in mind, we can look at all the activities we carry out and ask which ones truly serve our mission, and which ones do we continue simply because we have always done them. Then subtraction is not easy, especially in religious organization, because many people think that oh, this activity is important or that activity is also important. But if we may think that oh, we need more manpower or we are too busy, or we can think about subtractions too. And then in many ways, subtraction is also about clarifying our mission, making more space for what truly matters. Then after this lesson in the temple, I tried to reduce meetings first. Of course, what it's not that I want to say meeting is not good. Of course, meeting is important, but we can think about like combining different meetings, combining different committees. So in that way, we may do subtraction, and it may improve the efficiency. And let me move to the third session. The third lesson is the value of the membership system. The third lesson was born not in the classroom, but in a conversation. As I mentioned, the currently declining membership is one of our greatest concerns in Hawaii. And during the program at Stanford, I asked the other participants how they viewed this issue. Yeah, so like oh, our organization has this problem. What do you think? Then I expected empathy or advice. However, the answer that came back surprised me. Oh, your organization has a membership system. I envy you for having a membership system. Some participants said that to me. I learned many non-profit organizations have no membership system. Their income depends on donations, grants, and fundraising. As a result, they must prove their value to supporters year after year. So from their perspective, an organization where ordinary people continue to support its mission, not only with financial contributions, but also by giving their time and effort. Then I realized, so when we talk about membership, we tend to, in Hawaii, we tend to discuss a concern. However, after I attended this program, my perspective changed. Actually, it's really great thing that the Hongwanji temples have, membership, system. And in the session, some participants said that even if our organization face serious difficulties, we will continue because our work is essential to the people of our community. Their gaze was not directed at the survival of the organization. It was directed at the people they are serving. So that conversation turned my question upside down. So at first I was thinking, how do we stop the decline in membership? that is a question about survival. But after this session, I began to ask, why do we wish to share the teaching of Jodo Shinshu? No? Why does this community need a temple? What change do we hope to bring to people's lives? So these are questions of purpose. Then I came to believe that unless we can answer the questions of purpose, no answers to the questions of survival will truly help us. Then now, let me talk about the reflection on the mission of a Jodo Shinshu temple. So I have been speaking of 3 lessons, beginning with the change we wish to see, the power of subtraction, and the unexpected answer about our membership system. And in closing, I would like to bring these lessons home to our temples and reflect once more on the mission of our Jodo Shinshu temple. First, the first lesson asked us, what change do we wish to bring to the world through the Hongwanji temples, through our activities? Do we, the temples of Jodo Shinshu, have such a vision? In fact, we do, and it is expressed in some words. And let me share it with you. Do you know if I think usually that maybe service book contains our mission statement? Mission? Is it included? Oh, yeah, old one. Okay, thank you. But actually, this is the current one, the purpose of our denomination. Okay? The essential of Jodo Shinshu states the purpose of our denomination in this way. The Hongwanji school is a community of people joined together, revering the teaching of Shinran Shonin and saying the Nembutsu. We seek to share with others the wisdom and compassion of Amida Tathagata. By doing so, we shall work toward the realization of a society in which everyone is able to live a life of spiritual fulfillment. So this can be the mission of our denominations. And please take a look at the words at the center of this passage. This one, the wisdom and compassion of Amida Tathagata. What we convey to people is the wisdom and compassion of Amida Tathagata, or Amida Buddha, and the vision of a society in which people can live and the vision for a society is that everyone is live a life of spiritual fulfillment. The idea I learned at Stanford, begin with the change you wish to see. Then actually our tradition has already embodied in this mission statement. Also, this same mission is reflected in the mission statements of our kyodans or temples. Then I would like to share the mission statement of the Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii, where I serve. So this is the mission statement of Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii. The Honpa Hongwanji Mission of Hawaii shares the living teaching of Jodo Shinshu Buddhism so that all beings may enjoy lives of harmony, peace, and gratitude. And also, this is the Hilo Betsuin's mission. Having been awakened to the compassion of Amida Buddha's universal vow, Namo Amida Butsu, and rejoicing in the assurance of Buddhahood, we gratefully endeavor to live a life of service to others. And before I came here today, I also had the opportunity to visit the website of Los Angeles Betsuin. Yeah? And so I used this photo and I found this statement in your website. And it explains that since its founding, this Betsuin has served not only Los Angeles, I think I should, let me read this. Ever since the establishment of our Los Angeles Hompa Hongwanji, the temple has served not only the communities of Los Angeles County, but the entire Southern California as well. It has served all Buddhist temple members and non-members as well for weddings, memorial, and funeral services. This is the place where the three treasures are housed: Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. This is the place where we meet old friends and make new friends. This is our social place. Actually, I feel today I could meet some, old friends, and I could meet new friends. And this is a place for meeting for organizations and clubs. This is a place where we have entertainment, banquet, dances, and sports tournaments. This is a place where the Boy Scouts have their coat of honors. But to many Jodo Shinshuists, this is our home. This is where our Oyasama dwells. Namo Amida Butsu. And actually, I was very impressed, when I read the last sentence. This is where our Oyasama dwells. Namo Amida Butsu. Do you know the word Oyasama? Oyasama. Oya means the parents. The sama is the word to show our respect. Oyasama means, Amida, Buddha. Then, although each kyodan and temple expresses its mission in different ways, they all share the same foundation, the teaching, the Dharma. Our temples carry out many different activities. We hold religious services, youth programs, community events, and many other activities. Yet, these mission statements remind us of something very important. Above all, the temple exists as a place where people can encounter and hear the Buddha's teachings. And this teaching gives meaning and direction to everything we do, whether it is a service or programs. Each activity grows out of our wish to share the Dharma and support people's lives. Then let me share, Shinran Shonin's words. So, in the mission of your temple, there is a word Oyasama. Then I mentioned that it's very important to listen to Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion. The Shinran Shonin stated why Amida Buddha, has wisdom and compassion. Why Amida Buddha established the vow. Shinran Shonin stated it in this word from Hymns of the Dharma Ages. He said, when we reflect on the establishment of the vow, we find that the Tathagata, without abandoning sentient beings in pain and affliction, has taken the direction of virtue to them as foremost, thus fulfilling the mind of great compassion. End quote. These words remind us that Amida Buddha's compassion is directed toward all of us who live with aging, illness, death, and many kinds of suffering or challenges. Sharing the Jodo Shinshu teaching and supporting many people's lives in various ways based on this teaching, both in joyful and difficult times. And it is something that Hongwanji temples can do. And we can also remain a place where people can hear the Dharma. As a Hongwanji temple, we can share with others the wisdom and the compassion of Amida Buddha. And looking back, many of the management and leadership ideas I encountered at Stanford also emphasized empathy, respect, and diversity. Then one phrase especially stayed with me, begin with empathy. Sorry, I didn't include this word here, but when I heard those words, I I found myself nodding in agreement. At the same time, they reminded me how precious the Jodo Shinshu teaching we have received. Then I'm not saying that empathy and Amida Buddha's compassion are the same, but hearing that good leadership begins by caring for and understanding others, reminded me of Amida Buddha. Then thinking about this brought me back to the conversation I mentioned at the beginning. Of course, responding to membership decline is very important. We must continue caring for our members, our finances, and our temple buildings. But because these practical challenges are real, I believe we must continue asking deeper questions. Why do we want to continue sharing the teaching of Jodo Shinshu? Why, we need a temple, in this community? And Stanford didn't give me a new answer. Rather, it gave me the opportunity to rediscover what the teaching has already shown us. Our community needs a place where people can hear the Dharma, reflect on their lives, and receive guidance through the teaching. So I came to appreciate once again that this is one of the important roles of a Jodo Shinshu temple. Considering the Jodo Shinshu temple within the framework of non-profit organizations was also deeply meaningful for me. So around the world, countless non-profit organizations are devoted to serving others. As I mentioned, they support people experiencing homelessness, they protect children, strengthen community, and respond to many other needs. Each one carries out a very important work. Then learning from them made it even clearer to me how a Buddhist temple can serve our community or society. At the same time, among all these organizations fulfilling their respective missions, the Jodo Shinshu Temple has a unique role. It is a place we can hear Amida Buddha's primal vow, Shinran Shonin's teaching. Then here in this community, the temple fulfills that role. Then I believe this is both a precious mission entrusted to us. Then actually I attended the Stanford University program for 6 days. And at the beginning and at the end of the Stanford program, we received this message. No matter where we live, and no matter what role we carry, each of us can bring good change to society. These words remain with me to this day, whether in Hilo, on the island of Hawaii, or here in Los Angeles, whether as a minister or as a lay member, each one of us can help share the wisdom and the compassion of Amida Buddha, in different ways, like through temple activities, through attending the services, through talking with others. Then I returned from Stanford with 2 deep feelings of gratitude. One is gratitude that a Jodo Shinshu temple exists in our community as a place where we can encounter the wisdom and the compassion of Amida Buddha. The other is gratitude that I am able to serve as a Kaikyoshi minister who helps transmit the wisdom and the compassion. And as I said at the beginning, today's talk is not instruction or guidance, but an invitation. So I hope we will continue our work together while keeping the mission of our Jodo Shinshu temples in our hearts. So this is the end of my presentation. Thank you very much. And okay, I wanna add something. Yeah. Okay. Invitation. Okay. Invitation to a dialogue. From here, I would like to spend time in conversation with all of you since you are here. As I mentioned, today's talk is an invitation. So I would like this time to be not a time for me to question you, but a time for me to listen to you. I wanna listen to you, and let me offer three things. So now, I hope you may talk about these topics. Okay? You can choose one. So if there is something for which you have thought, oh, I am glad this temple is here, or the memory of the temple that has stayed in your heart, and the hope for the future of this temple, then, if possible, can you discuss it? Can you talk about it with people sitting next to you? And after that, if you don't mind, can you share, with everyone? Is that okay? Yeah. But if time allows, I would like to invite you first share with the person next to you for about like 1 or 2 minutes, and then to hear from a few of you. Okay. For example, a memory of the temple that has stayed in your heart. About the Los Angeles Betsuin, as I mentioned at the this morning service, I came here 21 years ago, and I was really, impressed by the temple and the statue of Shinran Shonin, and entering the temple. And today, I met, some old friends and meet new friends. Then maybe, can you talk about it with a person next to you? And after that, can you share it with everyone? Is that okay? Yeah. Thing in this discussion. Is anybody able to volunteer what you said or what you thought? A special memory, or if you think, if you think, I'm glad this temple is here because, yeah. Or just a hope for the future. Yes, thank you. Oh, okay, subtraction. Okay. Okay. Actually, subtraction, because, we have many activities. That some temples may have so many activities. Then I sometimes hear that, we don't have, manpowers. We are too busy. We are getting tired. And I often hear, such issues. But at the same time, to make the temple growth, or we need to start something new. We may add, more things. But at that time, then I learned at the sample that it's important to think about not only additions, but also subtractions. In that way, we can improve organizations too. Yeah. But therefore, of course, we can, remove the core activities. However, at the same time, through reflecting on what our mission is, what our goal is, we can, think about the core activities and do, subtraction as needed. So this is the lesson, I learned. So sometimes, since there are many, organizations, the many needs, so we may add so many new things. But at the time, it may be good to think about, do we need to add this now, or can we combine this with the other activities so that we may be able to operate more efficiently. Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the executive program focus on figuring out companies,
Yes.
resources and time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah.
And often it's volunteer organizations. Okay, volunteer labor is free.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Not really.
Yes. Actually, especially in some small temples in Hawaii, they think that, oh, we need the manpower, or we are too busy. How can we continue this program? I sometimes hear such comments. And also, I mentioned that I'm currently serving not only at Hilo Betsuin, but also 3 other neighboring temples. Then thinking about how to manage the 4 temples here helped. Of course, well, I don't want to, it's not, there are many things I don't want to do. Of course, I want to, do, as much as possible, but, there is a limit that, one person or one person and one organization can do. At that time, we can, think about, subtraction, and that it would help us. So anyway, thank you so much for your precious, words and for this time together. So listening to you, I have been reminded once again that temple truly is a place that lives within people's lives. And whatever the future of our temples may be, one thing will not change: the primal vow of Amida Buddha is always, here with us. So may our temples continue to be places where the Amida Buddha's wisdom and compassion are heard, shared, and lived. So thank you very much for your invitation today. The session. So let's say the name Butsu together. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu.